In the glittering world of wealth and influence, few stories capture the imagination quite like that of a high-profile billionaire marriage unraveling behind closed doors. At the heart of this tale is a seemingly perfect union between a powerful businessman and his equally formidable wife, a woman whose public image of elegance and grace belies the iron will beneath. The husband, a man known for his sharp intellect and relentless drive in the boardroom, carries with him the weight of a complicated personal life, one filled with ambition, secrets, and desires that stretch beyond the bounds of marriage. His reputation as a titan of industry is matched only by the whispers of his indiscretions, the most significant of which centers around a woman who was never meant to be part of the official story, his mistress. This mistress, ambitious and charming, managed to weave herself into the fabric of both the husband's life and business, ascending swiftly from a mere secret companion to being named his business partner, a shocking move that sent ripples through the company and society alike. Her sudden rise was not just a matter of personal betrayal but a strategic power play, one that challenged the established order and threatened the very foundations of the billionaire's empire. Yet beneath the surface of this dramatic power shift, the billionaire wife remained an enigma, her true influence hidden from the public eye. Though the husband's actions appeared to put the mistress in a position of strength, the wife's grip on the brand and the empire was far from broken. Behind the polished veneer and the headlines, she was quietly orchestrating moves that would reshape the narrative, her control subtle but absolute. This story, at its core, is not merely about infidelity or scandal, it is a complex dance of betrayal and loyalty, of power struggles and hidden truths. It explores how appearances can be deceiving, how strength often lies beneath quiet restraint, and how the true ownership of power can remain invisible until the moment it chooses to reveal itself. The stage is set for a confrontation that is as much about business as it is about personal pride and survival. In this world, trust is fragile, alliances shift like sand, and the consequences of every decision ripple far beyond the boardroom walls. What unfolds is a story of ambition and resilience, where the stakes are nothing less than a legacy and a brand worth billions, all tangled in a web of love, betrayal, and ruthless determination. The billionaire wife was much more than just a figurehead in a lavish marriage, she was the cornerstone of an empire that spanned industries and continents. Born into a family where success was expected and achievement was nurtured from a young age, she grew up surrounded by privilege but also responsibility. Her early years were marked not only by access to wealth but by a rigorous education that sharpened her mind and molded her ambitions. From an early age, she demonstrated a remarkable blend of intellect and intuition, traits that would serve her well in the cutthroat world of business. Though the origins of her wealth were steeped in family legacy, she was far from content to merely inherit a title or fortune. Instead, she took the foundation laid by generations before her and expanded it with a keen sense of innovation and an unyielding work ethic. She was involved in every major decision, her fingerprints on every strategic move the company made. Her control over the brand was quiet but absolute, never ostentatious, never needing to shout her power from the rooftops, yet unmistakably present. Those who worked closely with her often marveled at how effortlessly she navigated the complex networks of business and social influence, wielding her authority with a rare combination of grace and precision. What set her apart was her ability to balance strength with vulnerability. Though she appeared unshakable, beneath the composed exterior was a woman who understood the value of patience and the cost of every sacrifice she made. She was fiercely protective of her family and her legacy, and this dual devotion drove much of her decision-making. Her personality was a study in contrasts, at once warm and intimidating, approachable yet distant. She possessed an uncanny ability to read people, to anticipate challenges before they surfaced, and to turn obstacles into opportunities. Her business acumen was matched by a visionary outlook for the future, both for the company and for the family she cherished. She dreamed not only of financial success but of building a brand that could withstand the test of time, one that reflected integrity, innovation, and resilience. Her vision extended beyond mere profits. She saw the company as a living entity, one that required nurturing and careful stewardship to thrive across generations. The legacy she aimed to build was not just in numbers or market share but in values, culture, and influence, an empire that would stand firm even in the face of personal betrayals and public scandals. Despite the glittering world of luxury and power surrounding her, she remained grounded in the belief that true strength came from knowledge, preparation, and the quiet confidence of knowing one's worth. Her journey was one of transformation, from heir to architect, from a young woman defined by her family's name to a force who carved out her own identity through sheer will and determination. This intricate blend of heritage and self-made success gave her a unique position in the company. She was both its heart and its shield, a guardian of its past and a bold architect of its future. The husband's rise to prominence was marked by ambition and determination that often overshadowed his personal flaws. Born into a family with a respectable, if not quite billionaire-level, background, he worked tirelessly to climb the ladder in the business world. Early on, he recognized that marrying into the billionaire family would give him access to power and prestige he might never achieve alone. Once part of the empire, his role in the company grew steadily. He was charismatic, persuasive, and willing to take risks that others in the family might have avoided. While his wife was the strategic mind behind the empire's foundation and steady growth, he became known as the bold executor, the face of expansion and aggressive deal-making. His ambitions, however, extended beyond the boardroom. Privately, he sought more than just business success. He craved admiration, excitement, and a sense of control in every aspect of his life. It was in this restless pursuit that he crossed paths with the Mistress. She was unlike anyone he had met before, confident, alluring, and smart in ways that intrigued him deeply. Their meeting was almost serendipitous. At a charity gala, she approached him not with the coyness expected of a socialite, but with a directness that sparked his interest immediately. What began as casual conversations soon spiraled into secret meetings, where personal and professional boundaries blurred. The Mistress came from a background that was starkly different from the billionaire world she was entering. Raised in a modest household, she was driven by a fierce determination to rise above her origins. Her motivations were clear. She wanted security, status, and power, and she saw the husband as her ticket to all three. But she was not content to remain in the shadows or be a mere accessory to his success. It wasn't long before their affair moved from whispered rendezvous to a more public and daring alliance when the husband made the controversial decision to elevate her from mistress to business partner. This move shocked many. Within the walls of the company, the decision was seen as reckless and destabilizing. Outside, it became a scandalous headline fodder. The husband justified the decision by praising her apparent business acumen and unique insights, claiming she brought fresh energy to the brand. Yet beneath his public statements lay a more complicated truth. His infatuation had clouded his judgment, and his personal loyalties were shifting dangerously. The billionaire wife's reaction was a mixture of shock, hurt, and silent fury. To the public, she maintained an air of composure, but privately she grappled with the betrayal not just of her marriage but of the business she had nurtured. Within the business circle, opinions were sharply divided. Some viewed the wife as the rightful leader and saw the husband's decision as a foolish mistake. Others feared the mistress might destabilize the delicate balance of power. Board members whispered concerns about the impact on investor confidence and employee morale. Rumors began circulating about potential fractures in leadership and the future of the company's legacy. This moment marked a turning point, not just in the personal dynamics of the couple but in the trajectory of the entire empire. The mistress' entrance into the official business realm signaled a new era of conflict and intrigue. The husband, blinded by desire and ambition, had altered the company's course in a way few could have predicted. Meanwhile, the wife's reaction set the stage for a battle of wills that would test the strength of the empire itself. What was once a private affair now threatened to become a public war over power, control, and the very soul of the brand they had built. The official announcement that the mistress had been named business partner sent shockwaves through the company and the wider business community. Press releases heralded this unexpected partnership as a bold, innovative step toward revitalizing the brand, emphasizing the mistress's fresh perspective and keen eye for emerging markets. However, beneath the polished corporate statements, the reaction was far more turbulent. Investors expressed unease, shareholders murmured doubts, and the media seized the opportunity to speculate wildly about the future of the empire. The announcement, rather than uniting the company, exposed deep fissures within its core. Within the halls of the company, the mistress wasted no time asserting her influence. Her ascent from outsider to a key decision-maker was swift and strategic. She positioned herself at the heart of major projects, often bypassing traditional channels to exert direct control over operations. Employees who once viewed her with skepticism began to recognize her ability to sway the husband and, through him, the company's direction. With every successful initiative credited to her, her confidence and stature grew. Yet, her approach was far from subtle. She was aggressive in meetings, unafraid to challenge long-standing executives and board members. Her decisions often reflected a blend of bold ambition and calculated risk-taking, which both excited and unnerved those around her. This growing influence inevitably sparked conflicts within the company. The boardroom became a battleground where loyalties were tested and alliances shifted. Veteran executives felt marginalized as the mistress introduced new policies and strategies that disrupted the status quo. Employee gossip flourished, fueled by whispered concerns about the company's future under this unorthodox leadership duo. Rumors of nepotism, favoritism, and internal sabotage circulated, undermining morale and creating an atmosphere thick with suspicion. Many questioned the husband's judgment, fearing his personal entanglements were compromising the company's integrity. As the mistress's star rose, the husband's focus on both the business and his wife began to wane. His neglect was palpable, board meetings were often interrupted by his distracted demeanor, and his decisions grew increasingly impulsive. Business ethics, once the foundation of his leadership, started to erode as personal interests took precedence. This shift did not go unnoticed. Loyal employees and trusted advisors voiced concerns privately, warning of potential long-term damage if the husband did not regain control. Meanwhile, the mistress capitalized on this growing vulnerability. She employed a series of calculated strategies to consolidate her power within the empire. Recognizing the importance of securing key allies, she cultivated relationships with influential board members and high-ranking executives, offering incentives and subtle promises to ensure their support. She also initiated aggressive marketing campaigns and innovative product launches to build public favor and justify her role as a visionary leader. Behind the scenes, she worked to isolate the wife by controlling information flow and tightening her grip on company communications. By positioning herself as indispensable, she sought to make any opposition seem not only futile but detrimental to the brand's progress. This power play was not without risks. The mistress was constantly navigating a precarious line between ambition and overreach, aware that one misstep could lead to her downfall. Yet her determination to secure her place was unwavering. Each move was a calculated effort to shift the company's center of gravity firmly in her direction, transforming her role from a scandalous newcomer to an unquestioned pillar of the empire. The tensions within the company mirrored the unraveling personal dynamics at home, where the husband's neglect and the wife's silent fury brewed beneath the surface. This period marked a critical chapter in the saga, where the mistress's influence challenged the very foundations of power, loyalty, and trust within a billionaire empire. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation that would test the limits of ambition and reveal the true strength of those determined to hold on to control. Despite the husband's very public decision to elevate his mistress to business partner, the billionaire wife remained a true power behind the brand, wielding her influence with a deftness and subtlety that few outside her inner circle could perceive. While the world focused on the scandal and the spectacle of the new partnership, she was quietly reinforcing her control through a complex web of legal, financial, and operational strategies carefully designed to protect her empire. One of the key ways she maintained control was through ownership structures that were not widely known or understood. While the husband's name appeared prominently on many public documents, the wife retained a majority of shares in key subsidiaries and held controlling interest in the parent company itself. These holdings gave her veto power over any major decisions, effectively neutralizing the husband's attempts to shift authority to his mistress. Moreover, she had established a series of trusts and shell companies that added layers of protection around her assets, ensuring that any attempt to transfer or dilute ownership without her consent would trigger legal challenges. Her legal team, composed of some of the most formidable corporate attorneys in the world, worked tirelessly behind the scenes to monitor board meetings, contracts, and any moves the husband or mistress made that might threaten her position. Beyond the legal safeguards, she controlled the company's purse strings in ways that were not immediately obvious. Key financial accounts and budgets required her direct approval, giving her the ability to limit funding for projects spearheaded by the mistress or to delay critical initiatives until her concerns were addressed. This financial leverage allowed her to quietly starve some of the mistress's ventures of resources without attracting suspicion, undermining their potential success without overt confrontation. Operationally, the wife's influence was bolstered by a well-developed intelligence network within the company. Trusted executives and long-time employees, loyal to her leadership and deeply invested in the company's legacy, acted as her eyes and ears. They fed her information about boardroom discussions, staff morale, and the mistress's strategic moves. This network extended beyond the company walls, including legal advisors, PR experts, and even external consultants who kept her informed about public sentiment and media narratives. Armed with this intelligence, she was able to anticipate and counter the mistress's moves before they gained momentum. Quiet sabotage became one of her most effective tactics. Rather than openly confronting the mistress and risking public escalation, she employed strategic disruptions designed to erode the mistress's credibility and influence over time. For instance, when the mistress proposed a new product line or marketing campaign, the wife's allies would raise concerns about feasibility or brand alignment, forcing delays or revisions that sapped enthusiasm and stalled progress. In meetings, she would plant questions or reservations through proxies, subtly steering discussions away from the mistress's agenda. When employees or board members began to waver in their support, the wife's team would deploy reminders of the company's history, its core values, and the risks of reckless leadership under unproven stewardship. These moves were so discreet that many never realized the wife was behind them, attributing setbacks to natural business challenges rather than deliberate interference. There were also moments when the wife directly intervened in decision-making processes, often behind closed doors or in one-on-one conversations with influential executives. Her reputation for sharp insight and unwavering resolve commanded respect, and her counsel was sought after even by those who publicly supported the mistress. By offering alternative strategies or highlighting overlooked risks, she gradually shifted boardroom opinion in her favor, realigning priorities to reflect her vision. In one notable instance, a major acquisition that the mistress championed was quietly shelved after the wife presented a detailed analysis highlighting potential legal complications and financial risks. While publicly the decision was framed as a prudent business move, it was in reality a calculated measure to prevent the mistress from consolidating more power through expansion. Through all these efforts, the wife maintained a delicate balance. She projected calm and composure, never giving the mistress the satisfaction of knowing how tightly she was being controlled. Her strength lay in restraint and the ability to play a long game, recognizing that outright confrontation would only empower her opponents and risk fracturing the empire. Instead, she chose to work from the shadows, turning the husband's public gambit against him by undermining its foundation with precision and patience. This hidden hand ensured that despite appearances, the real ownership of the brand, and the destiny of the empire, remained firmly in her grasp. Her control was a testament to her intelligence, resilience, and the deep understanding that true power is not always about visibility, but about influence, strategy, and the quiet ability to shape outcomes without making noise. In the end, while the mistress was seen as a rising star, it was the wife who truly directed the course of the company, proving that beneath the glamour and scandal lay a woman whose grip on the empire was as ironclad as ever. The simmering tensions within the company soon erupted into full-blown corporate battles that played out in boardrooms filled with power players, legal teams, and watchful shareholders. The conflict between the billionaire wife and the mistress, once a private struggle, had become a public spectacle, with every meeting and decision scrutinized for signs of who truly held the reins. The wife and the mistress faced off repeatedly in high-stakes meetings, each determined to assert dominance over the company's direction. The wife, with her deep knowledge of the business and years of experience, brought a calm, calculated approach to these encounters. Her arguments were rooted in data, history, and a vision for sustainable growth, which appealed to many seasoned executives. The mistress, by contrast, wielded boldness and charisma, challenging traditional norms and advocating for rapid innovation and risk-taking. Their styles clashed spectacularly, making the boardroom feel more like a battlefield than a place of collaboration. Strategic battles for control intensified as the stakes grew higher. Shareholders, whose confidence was shaken by the scandal and internal discord, demanded clarity and decisive leadership. The wife leveraged her majority shares and alliances within the board to block initiatives that threatened the company's long-term stability, while the mistress rallied a faction of younger investors and progressive board members eager for change. Votes on critical issues became proxy wars, with every proposal dissected and debated not just on merit but as a test of allegiance. In this volatile environment, the husband's role became increasingly uncertain. Once a key figurehead and decision-maker, he found himself caught between his wife's steely resolve and the mistress's aggressive push for power. His support wavered, sometimes publicly endorsing the mistress's plans, other times retreating to a more passive stance. This inconsistency weakened his influence and caused confusion within the leadership ranks, as no one could be certain where his loyalties truly lay. Many began to see him as a pawn in a larger game, manipulated by both women for their own ends. Meanwhile, external pressures compounded the internal strife. The media seized upon every development, turning corporate strategy sessions into sensational headlines and opinion pieces. Investors grew jittery, concerned about the impact of the family drama on share prices and dividends. Competitors watched closely, sensing an opportunity to exploit the company's distraction and possibly poach clients or key talent. Public relations teams worked overtime to contain damage, but rumors and leaks made it impossible to keep the story under wraps. The mounting pressure forced all parties to tread carefully, balancing aggression with caution. Despite the chaos, the wife began to gain significant advantages at key turning points throughout the conflict. One notable moment came during a contentious shareholder meeting where the wife unveiled a comprehensive recovery plan focused on sustainable growth, risk management, and preserving the company's legacy. Her presentation was meticulous and backed by strong financial forecasts, which resonated deeply with the more conservative shareholders and board members. The mistress's response, while passionate, appeared less grounded, highlighting a disconnect between bold vision and practical execution. This event shifted the tide, with several undecided shareholders switching their support to the wife. Another turning point occurred when the wife successfully negotiated with influential board members who had been teetering between the two factions. Through discreet one-on-one meetings, she reminded them of their fiduciary duties and the long-term consequences of reckless leadership, reinforcing her position as the guardian of the company's heritage. These alliances fortified her majority and marginalized the mistress's faction. The husband's wavering stance also worked in the wife's favor. As his indecision became more apparent, board members grew frustrated with his lack of leadership, effectively sidelining him from critical votes and discussions. This isolation further empowered the wife to consolidate control without interference. Throughout these battles, the wife maintained an air of composed authority, refusing to be drawn into public confrontations or petty disputes. Her ability to stay focused on the bigger picture while navigating the minefield of personal betrayal and corporate intrigue impressed many and strengthened her reputation both within the company and among external observers. In contrast, the mistress's aggressive tactics, though initially effective at shaking up the status quo, began to alienate key allies and exposed vulnerabilities in her approach. Her boldness was often perceived as reckless bravado rather than strategic foresight, and over time, this perception eroded her support base. The corporate battles between the wife and the mistress thus became a study in contrasting leadership styles and the complex interplay of power, loyalty, and strategy. As the wife steadily gained ground, it became clear that the true strength of the empire lay not in flashy innovations or impulsive gambits but in the steady hand that could weather storms and chart a course for lasting success. The clash of titans in those boardrooms was more than a fight for control, it was a defining moment for the company's future, testing not just the resilience of a brand but the very nature of power within a family and a business intertwined. The wife's quiet victory in these battles laid the foundation for the ultimate reclaiming of her empire, proving that true leadership is as much about endurance and wisdom as it is about ambition and strength. Behind the polished facade of corporate battles and boardroom strategies, the emotional toll on the billionaire wife was profound and deeply personal. The betrayal by her husband was not just a violation of trust but a seismic blow to the very foundation of her life. She grappled with the pain of infidelity in silence, aware that any public display of weakness could be exploited by both the media and her adversaries within the company. Yet beneath her composed exterior, waves of anger, heartbreak, and doubt surged relentlessly. The public revelation of the husband's affair, whether through a leaked expose, tabloid scandal, or insider whistleblower, turned the private agony into a spectacle. Headlines splashed across newspapers and social media painted a picture of a fractured marriage and a chaotic empire. The scrutiny was relentless, and the wife found herself not only fighting to maintain control of her business but also to preserve her dignity in the court of public opinion. Within the family, the scandal reshaped dynamics in unsettling ways. Their children, caught between loyalty to their parents and the shock of betrayal, faced confusion and emotional strain. Relatives and close friends were thrust into awkward positions, forced to choose sides or maintain delicate neutrality. Some expressed sympathy and rallied around the wife, recognizing her strength and resilience, while others whispered doubts or grew resentful of the public attention the scandal brought to the family. The mistress's personal ambitions only intensified these tensions. Her desire not merely to be a hidden figure but to stake a permanent claim in the empire collided directly with the family's sense of tradition and legacy. For many, she was seen as an interloper, someone who threatened not only the marriage but the continuity of the family's hard-won achievements. Her rise was viewed as a breach of unspoken codes that bound the family and business together, sparking resentment and fueling internal resistance. The mistress's presence complicated relationships further, as she navigated the treacherous terrain of social expectations, corporate politics, and personal vendettas. She was both envied and despised, admired for her boldness but criticized for her perceived opportunism. Public opinion mirrored these divisions. While some sympathized with the wife, viewing her as a wronged woman and rightful heir to the empire, others were fascinated by the mistress's audacity and eager to see how far she would go. The scandal dominated headlines, talk shows, and social media trends, often overshadowing the company's achievements and fueling a narrative of dysfunction and intrigue. This public pressure added another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation, forcing the wife to balance her need for privacy with the demands of managing her public image. Despite the emotional upheaval, the wife drew on an inner reservoir of strength, channeling her pain into determination. She recognized that her response to the betrayal would define not only her future but the legacy she would leave for her children and the company. The personal drama unfolded as a crucible that tested every aspect of her identity, as a wife, a mother, a leader, and a woman of immense power. The delicate interplay of family loyalty, personal ambition, and public scrutiny created a narrative that was as compelling as it was painful. Ultimately, the story was not just about scandal or betrayal but about resilience, dignity, and the complex ways in which personal and professional lives intersect. In navigating this storm, the billionaire wife demonstrated that true power often lies in the ability to endure, adapt, and rise above even the most devastating challenges. After enduring months of betrayal, corporate infighting, and personal anguish, the billionaire wife embarked on a relentless campaign to reclaim her empire and reassert her position as the true owner and leader behind the brand. Her strategy was meticulous, blending legal acumen, business savvy, and an unyielding will to restore order and dignity to a company that had been rocked to its core. Recognizing that the public scandal and internal discord had weakened the company's standing, she first focused on tightening her legal grip. With a team of top-tier attorneys, she launched a series of lawsuits and injunctions designed to challenge the legitimacy of the mistress's business partnership and any decisions made without her consent. These legal maneuvers were carefully crafted to exploit weaknesses in the husband's and mistress's contractual arrangements, exposing oversights and procedural errors that undermined their claims to authority. Simultaneously, she orchestrated business maneuvers that consolidated her control over key assets and decision-making processes. She renegotiated shareholder agreements to solidify her majority stake, secured the loyalty of influential board members, and implemented new governance policies that limited unilateral actions by rogue executives. By strengthening the company's internal controls, she created barriers that made it increasingly difficult for the mistress to wield influence without oversight. Public relations became another critical front in her campaign. Understanding the importance of reputation, she launched a carefully crafted media strategy aimed at reshaping the narrative from scandal to strength. Press releases, interviews with trusted allies, and subtle leaks of insider perspectives painted her as a resilient and visionary leader, a guardian of the company's legacy who was restoring stability and confidence. This media offensive helped to win back investor trust and mitigate the damage caused by earlier controversies. The wife's efforts to expose the mistress's weaknesses were particularly effective. Through internal investigations and strategic leaks, she revealed instances where the mistress's decisions had led to financial losses, poor partnerships, or public backlash. These revelations chipped away at the mistress's credibility, turning shareholders and executives against her. The wife also highlighted inconsistencies in the mistress's business claims and her failure to deliver on promised innovations, framing her as more of a disruptive force than a visionary leader. Meanwhile, the husband's position deteriorated. Once a figure of influence, he found himself increasingly isolated, caught between his estranged wife's determined resurgence and the mistress's dwindling support. Reports surfaced of his waning involvement in company affairs and growing regret over his earlier decisions. In private, he began to distance himself from the mistress, recognizing that his allegiance was jeopardizing both his reputation and his family's legacy. This shift left the mistress vulnerable and further empowered the wife to consolidate control. The culmination of these efforts was a decisive moment when the wife successfully orchestrated a boardroom coup that formally removed the mistress from her position as business partner. This victory was not merely a personal triumph but a powerful statement to the business world that she was the rightful steward of the empire. Her reassertion as the true power behind the brand was marked by renewed confidence and clarity of purpose. She immediately set about restoring the company's culture, reaffirming core values, and launching new initiatives that reflected her long-term vision. Her leadership inspired renewed loyalty from employees and investors alike, stabilizing a company that had once teetered on the brink of collapse. The wife's masterstroke was not just about reclaiming control, it was about reclaiming identity, respect, and legacy. It demonstrated her extraordinary resilience and strategic brilliance in the face of personal betrayal and public challenge. By combining legal strategy, business acumen, and media savvy, she turned what seemed like a devastating setback into an opportunity for renewal and strength. Her victory proved that true power lies not in titles or fleeting alliances but in the courage to fight, the wisdom to plan, and the perseverance to see justice done. In reclaiming the brand, she redefined what it means to be a leader and a woman of influence in a world where the lines between personal and professional are often blurred. This chapter of her life and career became a testament to the enduring strength of will and the unbreakable bond between a woman and the empire she built, not just for herself, but for generations to come. The fallout from the intense battle for control left deep and lasting consequences for both the mistress and the husband, affecting their personal lives and professional standings in profound ways. The mistress, once a rising star with newfound power, found herself ousted not only from the company but from the inner circles of influence she had desperately sought to join. Her reputation suffered significantly as the public and business community questioned her motives and capabilities. The scandals and legal battles had exposed vulnerabilities that made it difficult for her to regain trust or secure comparable positions elsewhere. Personally, she faced isolation and the harsh reality that ambition alone was not enough to secure lasting power, especially when built on shaky foundations. The husband, meanwhile, endured a parallel unraveling. His wavering loyalties and poor judgment left him marginalized within the family and the company. Professionally, his influence diminished as key allies distanced themselves, wary of being associated with the turmoil. The damage to his reputation was compounded by the public nature of the scandal, forcing him to reckon with the consequences of mixing personal affairs with business decisions. In many ways, both the mistress and husband became cautionary figures, illustrating the risks of allowing personal ambitions and indiscretions to cloud judgment and disrupt established power structures. In stark contrast, the billionaire wife emerged from the turmoil with renewed strength and a clear vision for the future of the company. Her leadership, once questioned in the wake of scandal, was now widely respected and embraced by shareholders, employees, and the broader industry. She embarked on a comprehensive plan to restore the company's reputation, improve internal morale, and align the brand with values of integrity, innovation, and resilience. Changes in company culture reflected this renewed focus, with an emphasis on transparency, accountability, and collaboration. Employees were encouraged to voice concerns and contribute ideas, fostering an environment that valued trust and mutual respect over politics and power struggles. Publicly, the company worked hard to distance itself from the scandals of the past, launching marketing campaigns that highlighted its commitment to quality and leadership in its sector. Media coverage shifted from scandal to success stories, showcasing the company's renewed growth and strategic initiatives under the wife's guidance. The transformation extended beyond business metrics. It represented a healing process for a company and family deeply scarred by betrayal and conflict. Reflecting on the entire saga, it became clear that power, trust, and resilience were intertwined in complex ways. The wife's ability to withstand personal betrayal and navigate ruthless corporate battles underscored the importance of inner strength and strategic thinking. Trust, once broken, required deliberate effort to rebuild, both within relationships and organizations. Resilience, demonstrated by the wife's unwavering determination, became a defining characteristic of the empire moving forward. Yet, even as stability returned, subtle signs hinted at future challenges. The lessons learned from the scandal would not be forgotten, and the company remained vigilant against complacency and internal divisions. The wife's renewed vision included plans for succession, risk management, and ongoing innovation to ensure the empire could adapt and thrive in an ever-changing landscape. The personal relationships within the family were also evolving. Healing was underway, but scars remained, serving as reminders of the costs of power struggles and betrayal. In the end, the aftermath of this turbulent chapter was not just a story of loss and recovery but of transformation. It was a testament to the capacity for renewal after devastation and the enduring power of leadership rooted in integrity and resilience. The billionaire wife's journey illustrated that true success is not defined solely by wealth or titles, but by the ability to reclaim one's purpose, rebuild trust, and lead with unwavering strength into the future. The story of this billionaire marriage and empire is ultimately one of profound betrayal, quiet strength, and the reclaiming of control against overwhelming odds. It began with deception, an ambitious mistress inserted into a powerful businessman's life, seemingly shifting the balance of power and threatening to dismantle a legacy painstakingly built over generations. Yet, beneath the surface turmoil, the billionaire wife demonstrated an extraordinary resilience that few could have anticipated. She navigated the treacherous waters of infidelity, scandal, and corporate warfare with a composed determination that revealed her true strength. Her legacy is far more than the wealth she inherited or the empire she helped expand. It is the story of a woman who understood the true nature of power, not as a fleeting display of dominance, but as a deep, strategic control that can be wielded quietly and effectively behind the scenes. Throughout her journey, she employed intelligence, patience, and calculated action to undermine threats and rebuild her influence, proving that the truest ownership lies not in titles or public recognition but in the ability to shape outcomes and preserve one's vision. The lessons from her story reach beyond the confines of business into the realms of human nature and relationships. Power is fragile and often masked by appearances. Loyalty can be tested and broken, but it can also be earned and restored. Identity is not fixed by circumstance or betrayal but by the choices one makes in response. The wife's experience teaches that enduring power requires resilience, foresight, and an unwavering commitment to one's values, even when those values are challenged by personal pain and public scrutiny. Appearances, as this saga so clearly shows, can be deceiving. The husband's public gestures and the mistress's visible rise suggested a shift in control, but the real power remained hidden, anchored in the wife's unyielding grasp on her empire. This underscores a profound truth about leadership and influence, that true power often resides in the unseen, in the quiet decisions, in the patient strategy behind the scenes rather than in the spotlight. As this story closes, it offers a final, powerful statement about owning one's power, in business and in life. It is a call to recognize that strength is not always loud or aggressive. Sometimes it is the calm force that steadies the ship amidst the storm. To own one's power is to claim agency over one's destiny, to rise above betrayal and adversity, and to lead with integrity and vision. The billionaire wife's journey is a testament to this enduring truth, reminding us all that no matter the challenges faced, the power to control one's fate lies within, and it is a power worth fighting for.